Almost.
Awesome.
All right, here we go. We are live. It is Wednesday,
Right.
June 18th, and we have a great show today. Temperature in Austin, Texas is 91 degrees. It's clear skies. It's been kind of humid lately. We had some unique thunderstorms and hail and all kinds of crazy things going on. Um, I think I'm going to be going on the lake soon. I have a trip going to India coming up here and Friday for 2 weeks. I'm going to be in New Delhi and Mumbai and Bangalore and lots of stuff going on in that country. Becoming a superpower probably over the next 10 years. So anyway, we're going to be talking about smart buildings and 3D printing and many things. But before we get rolling, let's have our own John Sibley Butler play some music.
Back before I was a professor, right out of Franklinton, I had the picture of another man's wife tattooed on my arm. A pack of Camel cigarettes in the sleeve of my t-shirt, and I headed out to Hollywood just to get my feelings hurt. That time will make you crazy. Just give it a little time. You'll be walking around in circles down in Hollywood and Vine. You'll be waiting on a phone call at the wrong end of a broom. That town will make you crazy, crazy as a loon.
Woo! All right. Thank you, Johnny.
Yes, sir.
So, the world is going a million miles an hour, too much gossip and things to figure it out who's on first. But the grid today is looking good. We have 12,000 megawatts of reserve, and I think that the market continues to react to different things. But I can tell you that the activity, it's really all over the place. There's a lot of layoffs and companies restructuring, and there's the markets are shifting. Interestingly enough, supply chains. It's kind of like there's a lot of reorganization of many things happening. I'm pretty close to the semiconductor business and others, and there's a lot going on there, a lot of acquisitions. AI continues to dominate, and the mega data centers continue to dominate, and electrification is a little out of control. The EVs are kind of taking a dip. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of talk about hydrogen, this, hydrogen, that, and then obviously the next big thing in America is nuclear power. So anyway, what does John Butler see these days? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, as my song said, the world is crazy as a loom. I think I think the technology is there. We have seen the technology. I think now it's a leadership issue. I think that when I say a leadership issue, I mean it's a management issue. It's a leadership issue. And we talk about all of the jobs that AI would take, and that is very, very true, I might add. So you might, cut down to one person that's managing the AI. But if you look at what's happening on the international scene, with wars breaking out in Europe and wars breaking out in the Middle East, we're in a crisis of leadership. We're in a crisis of people who can understand. And I've always said, I gave a talk the other day. I said, we can make it through my hippie generation that's grown older. We'd be much better off. This is the generation that kind of spit on the American flag and endorsed the war in Vietnam, and now they're in leadership positions. So I think it is a leadership problem. Now, what did I say about leadership in technology? Well, the leadership in technology companies have to find a way to provide jobs and opportunities for individuals. Otherwise, we live in a situation where we are I don't know, just a technocratic society. And we're really going back to the whole idea where, in a surfing kind of environment, those things tend to happen. And because of that, the wealth creation is off the scale. And for the first time since the Gilded Age, the billionaires were brought back into the national scene, mostly by President Trump, as we tried to deal with what was happening in China. And Trump didn't have the time to go through Congress to get things built. So, if China wanted to buy something near the canal, then Trump would say just pull up on one of his billionaire friends to do that. So not since the Gilded Age, it hasn't been done like that. But what's interesting about that, everybody wants their kids to be a billionaire, but on the other hand, we talk about the wealth creation and the billionaire. So we're at a point now where America has always been a place where we talked about the American dream. Now, the American dream might be shifting. It might be shifting to another country. Our kids and grandkids might end up working in China. They might end up working somewhere else around the world. They might end up going and getting their PhD from Oxford, rather than the University of Minnesota. They might go and take jobs, right, in Africa rather than taking jobs in New York. So I think we had a crisis of intellectual leadership. What we have done, and I'm in that case, we've talked so much about technology, but I've always said that the ideas of Locke and the ideas of Rousseau and the ideas that really birthed America is very, very good. They're very, very good. And this is the first time in my lifetime that a country has really challenged, right, America, and that country is China. And I think it's challenging the Constitution. And I think what's different is that if you look at, for example, the stock market, we really don't know much about Chinese enterprises because the Communist Party there does not allow that information to leak out. We don't know their valuation, but still we're buying the bonds from them. And it's like if I had to go buy bonds in the stock market in America and I knew nothing about the valuation of the companies. It's like if I had to go buy stock in General Motors, but I knew nothing about the stock and and their business and the numbers. Well, the same thing happens in China, where we're not allowed to look at their stock market, but still we keep feeding that stock market. So I think what will save everything in the future is the fact that the openness of American society, the freedom of American society. Because when I talk about billionaires, they're also happening in China, but the China billionaires want to bring their money to America. And 30+% of people at our south borders are Chinese. That's trying to get in because at any time the government can come in and just take the enterprise. Now in America, they might try to take it through taxes, but it's just a thing. And finally, I think that we are facing a crisis of education. I think that our modes of education, which traditionally was dependent upon wealth, what your parents did, and then we made the base much lower, much stronger by providing student loans and getting away from the GI Bill. Charles Moscas, my major professor at Northwestern, testified before Congress that hey, you're gonna dish it, you're gonna gut the GI Bill and provide student loans. That's wrong. That's wrong. The students should be able to go do something for America. You don't have to just go to the military. You can go work in a Boy Scouts. You can go work for something having to do that would make the country better. Go work in a hospital, right? Go work in a nursing home, right? Just do something on behalf of the country rather than just handing money out like we did for student loans. So I think we need a crisis of leadership, and I think the military stuff is very, very interesting. I think everybody wants an atom bomb. I think everybody has an atom bomb. Uh, we don't know it, but we do not want to get blown up. But at the end of the day, we're in a crisis of leadership. We need great leaders from different countries to step forward and come up with solutions. And I'll just say this about my country. I would always tell my students, go get rich, and they have. But you can't tell a country we're going to get rich, because a country is a benevolent entity, right? We may pay $3 billion to a country around the world just to have a presence there, right? We might give billions and billions of dollars to help people around the globe, and it does not have to always be like my board meetings at my business meeting, right? That is, the bottom line does not have to reflect just the company. It's a benevolent society. It was the last great hope for people. We went to England, right? During the First World War. We defeated Germany twice. We defeated Japan. And we did not take Volkswagen from Japan. We gave it back to them. We did not take Toyota from Japan, like the Romans would have done. So I think we need a crisis in leaderships, and we need to sit down and refocus what America is all about.
Got it. Got it. Well said. Well said. Llewellyn King, what say you?
Well, I'm awfully tempted to dismantle what my colleague, Dr. John Sibley Butler, has just said. But as I agree with about 1/3 of it, I'll let it pass this time. There are some assumptions that are quite remarkably progressive and interesting in what he says. I think we're in a tipping point. I think it's a very, very dangerous point in time. It's dangerous in the Middle East in terms that we may be embroiled even today in a shooting war, of which we have no scheme for an end of it. We know how to start wars, but we don't know how to end them. Our record since the Second World War has not been particularly good, maybe Korea. But the thing that really threatens us is the lack of research funding from the government. It's essentially been cut in half. I just got a wonderful essay sent to me from the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists by Neil Rice and John, Holdren. Both of them at different times were science advisors to the president. Both of them have extraordinary national careers as scientists and administrators in science. Rice headed the National Science Foundation, and Holdren has been head of a number of things, including the science part of the Kennedy Center at Harvard University. And they are lamenting the damage done. I asked a colleague of mine, a friend who was head of computer sciences at Brown, I said, what is the most important thing in research? And he said to me, passion. And what is happening is things are being started, stopped, turned on, turned off. That destroys passion, enthusiasm. And science requires passion, preferably from young people who are prepared to stay up all night staring into a microscope, who are prepared to rebuild an experiment time and again until it comes out right and they learn something. The funding for NASA has been brutally and ruthlessly and unimaginatively cut just when we're on the verge of really finding out something about the place in the heavens that we occupy. And this is very distressing. This is a brutal assault, not on today. It's an assault on tomorrow. It's an assault. We have been since the end of the Second World War, the great inventor nation, the great science-driven nation. We have given so much to the world in this period, including the system that enables us to sit in different places and conduct this webinar. We are not going to give anything to ourselves for the future if we stop science now. And things as disparate as The Economist magazine, as many newspapers, and that is a terrible thing. The other undercutting of our well-being comes in devaluing the word that backs the dollar. There was an extraordinary op-ed by Gene Sperling, this former chairman of the Economic Council, I think under Obama, in which he points out that we have always been able to borrow endlessly because of the faith and credit of the US. And we're undermining that with really foolish things, the interrupting global trade to no apparent gain, going in this direction, that direction, and certain things that suggest that even our court system is not as inviolate as it once was. So I think that's very sad. But on the upside, I'm very happy to see Jason today because I've read up on what he does and it fascinates me. And I want to know in particular about printed houses. So, Jason, tell me about printed houses. That's hopeful and optimistic.
Thank you for having me, gents. It's exciting because as I hear y'all speak, I hear places that, or places we belong and reasons why we're here, right? And also the laundry list of inefficiencies that are in our system that could be corrected in a quote unquote intelligent, forward thinking society, right? That we are supposed to be. So, in that vein, that took this very analog individual, somebody who didn't have a cell phone until he was 24, 25 years old. If you didn't see me in person, we probably didn't communicate. Just was not a plugged in individual. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, I just started having kids and started realizing, okay, they're going to catch up to me significantly faster than I'm ready for. And so got a desktop printer or a desktop 3D printer, started learning that. All the while building traditional housing, infill construction here in Austin. And then COVID happened, and we got shoved right into looking at different options. Exits were insane here in town. Granted, the prices were great on the back end, but getting there and guaranteeing that it was going to be there once you were ready to sell was difficult. So I needed something else. So that's what put us here. So like I said, it's interesting hearing y'all talk about all these inefficiencies and where we can answer it. And I think 3D printing is definitely one of them, and that's what has been our 3-year focus, 3.5-year focus, is taking a technology that, or I mean, an industry that has not advanced itself past, power tools in a long time, or adopted in anything at significant scale that they could really push the needle on solving some housing shortages that we have across the country, across the world, but focusing obviously here at home. So anyway, where would you guys like to start on the 3D printed home side?
Let me chime in real quick, Jason, and introduce you for everybody's knowledge on the call. So Jason Jones is the CEO and founder of Liberty 3D. And Liberty 3D is a veteran owned, as he is a veteran. Thank you for your service, Jason.
Yes,
And
sir.
performing sustainable construction with cutting edge technologies, not just 3D, but many other things. And Jason has actually a pilot in the works going on, and he can talk about it. And we are looking forward to helping that journey. But Jason, just basically maybe talk a little bit about your current project that you're working on, and maybe then Llewellyn and John can chime in and dig deeper into all that. But just describe high level the vision of the project and where you're at on it.
Absolutely. So what we're working on now is a 14 home sustainable home builder showcase, sustainable/smart home builder. So folks that are looking to provide options along with ourselves against some of the home builders that are and traditional home builders that come into the area when it starts to grow. Taylor has Samsung right up the road. Our development is in Rockdale, which is about 15-20 minutes east on 79. And so it's a beautiful start in that area because Lennar and DR Horton have already started to construct in that area. And there's some good development happening around there, but these tend to be the primary options. And because they're done quickly, and there are, anyway, they're the number one, number two production home builders, so they pump these things out quick. They're well resourced, and so they can fill those gaps pretty quickly. What we're trying to do here is provide options that are aligned with that similar price point, but add the value that the 3D printed concrete walls can provide, the hemp block builders that we have coming in there as well, and several others that are steel framing, and some others that we've got going in that area. We are about done. We're about 2-3 weeks away from the dirt being done, utilities being in place for each one of those lots, and then we will have the foundations placed in the next month, 6 weeks, and so we will be ready to print 1st of August. Would be beautiful. I think that'd be a fantastic day to start.
Okay, so we're at the materials now where we can.
Yes, sir.
And we have a number of companies like that in Austin, Texas, and I guess we did our first printable homes about 10 years ago, I'm guessing, here in Austin, Texas. And I think from looking at it and trying to understand it, two things come to mind. At one time we had Jim Malta homes, and the other time we can buy a house from from Sears and Roebuck. And when we had our student at the University of Texas print the first gun that he started selling, I don't know if you remember that, our law school student, right? Well, we knew that everything was on its way, right? So my question to you, it's all about material science, as you know. And of course, this all came from NASA when NASA said, we don't want to take anything to the moon. We want to be able to print it out on the moon. We want to print it out, right? So my question is, we've done toothpastes, we've done toothbrushes, and etc. Now we're doing airplanes, now we're doing automobiles, and now we're doing houses. How has material science changed so that it would allow you to take the composition of that material and print the house out so that it could be very, very stable? So what I see is a lot of concrete going in, and I understand that. But if you're going to get into material science with everything from the floors, the wooden floors, to the shingles, that's the problem. I just want to know how you see the advancement in material science so that you can now do a great house.
So some of the material science will be above my level, but I will break down kind of where our experience with concrete in particular. If we're talking about overall in material science for 3D printing, whether it's plastics or geopolymers, or with concrete, or with hempcrete, or with printing titanium silencers, or they did a metal bridge. There's multiple materials that we can print with, and there's one in Austin here that does metal printing as well. I think what that comes down to, how that material science has changed, is really been a lot of communication across like interdisciplinary communication, and some of that trial and error, and the education systems and these research programs doing what serves them well, but also serves the community well by publishing these white papers, right? Keeping us informed. And so I get to amass or take all of that information that's been collected and pull it together for what applies to me. In mine in particular, although we do focus on 3D printing throughout the house and how we can inject the precision, repeatability, reliability into the entire product. But on our side, on the printing side, there's a lot of you're asking from that material uh, to be pumpable enough to go through the hose, out through the nozzle, and be placed to still harden, but be soft and moist enough, I guess, for lack of a better term, to still adhere with that previous and subsequent layer, and also not completely flatten that piece. So in that, it's a lot of trial and error. It's working with engineers, with Sika, with Quickcrete, with Mape. Thankfully, companies who've been around for decades and have been putting out cementitious materials for different applications for decades. That helps a ton. And the beauty is that most of the material science and the technology of 3D printing has been worked out for decades. What has really been holding us up is just the technology to catch up, and that's often been the case. I mean, look at Da
Well, let
Vinci.
me ask you this, speaking of
Yeah.
best practices, I think that we have a whole community of 3D printed houses already developed in Austin. I think it's been
Yes,
up
sir.
for about 2 or 3 years, maybe 5 years now. What were the problems associated with that community? I mean, are we learning from, did we have wiring difficulties? Or was it just the size and walls that were 3D printed, and then we had labor to go in and do all of the internal work? But what do you know about the, I mean, I went there. We have a community, maybe 3 years ago. We have a community in Austin that's total all 3D printed houses.
It is. And
Have you learned
Icon,
anything from that?
a ton, right? So living in Austin, we've been extremely fortunate to be adjacent to Icon and their exposure. I got to, I saw the house being printed during South by Southwest in 2018. Then I thought to myself, oh, wait, this is great. It's a neat thing to go through and watch during a showcase for South by. Maybe in 10 years, we'll see something happen. And not, but maybe 18 months later, oh, they're seeking certificates of occupancy for 4 structures on the east side of Austin. Okay. Well, this is it's moved from homeless housing and transitional housing to a fully scalable product that they then took from those 4 houses to Georgetown, which is fantastic. And I think Icon, if nothing else, is a great conceptual company that shows what is possible with this industry from the smallest scale to the largest scale right now, without capturing the commercial tilt wall industrial side.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to go to California next and make some real money. We're going to cross the states and make some real money. All right, Llewellyn,
Thank you. Jason,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
fascinated by this, and I've seen a lot of 3D printing, but only on small scale. I've never seen anything large being printed. And usually it's been with a plastic of some sort, an epoxy-based feedstock. What is your
Yes, sir.
feedstock? You're calling it concrete, but it's not purely concrete, is it?
No, so ours is it depending on where we are, and honestly, right now, with the relationships we have with the companies, they've done a fantastic job. So Quickcrete and Sika are the 2 bases, let's say, which they can stand on their own as far as being a material for feedstock, rather, for the 3D concrete printing. We had a couple of admixtures in there from E5 nanosilica that help with the internal curing and the crack mitigation. with the nanosilica filling those normally what would be air gaps when the water is evaporated are now filled with a material that fills that gap. So without getting too deep into that science. So those are the primary. Our goal is to kind of follow this marksmanship or military mindset where you aim small, miss small. So we keep it climate controlled and temporary on-site manufacturing facility, which is basically an industrial tent that we put our printer, a batch plant, the panel area for both printing and curing. We do the MEP insulation or installation in there, then installation, doors, windows, and then within a 30-day quality control period, we move it out to the foundation and affix it to the foundation to each other, and then we're roof ready.
What's the width?
Yeah.
What is the width of the wall? Is it 3 inches? Is it 4 inches? And
The
where do you
width of
put
the wall is,
you put it
what's that?
between- you put the insulation between 2 panels of
Mhm.
printed wall?
Yes.
And what is the width of those panels? What is each print? Is it 1, 2, 3 inches?
So what we're dealing with is a 12-inch wall from exterior to interior surface, right? What the beads or the wall wipes are 3 inches up to 9 feet. And the internal, so you've got 3 and 3, and then your 6-inch cavity, and that's where your insulation goes. The electrical is drops, so that makes it significantly easier, and almost all, I'd say 99% of the plumbing and electrical are actually in the internal walls, which are all modular also, and have their own MEP kits that are plug and play for the interior of the home.
Sorry, well, I'm not familiar with MEP.
So mechanical, electrical, plumbing.
Oh, okay. And those are after printing. Those are added after printing. But
Yes,
there's
sir.
allowance
Yes, sir.
in the printing blueprint for them.
Not yet,
Yes, sir.
not yet.
Right. How much of the completed house would you say has been printed, and how much of it has been post printing?
I would say it's probably so concrete printed. You're looking at mostly your exterior walls and any interior permanent framing that would be needed. But and then we do 3D printing, either metal or like as you said, epoxy or polymer printing for the handles and some of the fixtures on the inside. I'd say it's probably 60-40, 60 printed and 40 not.
The concrete, what size, what are the dimensions of the aggregate? It's coming out of a nozzle. It can't be very large.
Nothing larger than 3/8, where it's really small aggregate. Thankfully, it essentially becomes a mortar for all intents and purposes, because and therefore requires less water. It does require less binder because we're not dealing with a larger aggregate. So mostly it's cement, sand, and a very small, like a fiber, either a hemp or a fiberglass fiber add on.
Is this concrete pre-mixed and delivered to the printer, or is it
Yes,
mixed
sir.
on site? Pre-mixed.
Right now it's pre-mixed. I think everybody who's moving towards, well, maybe not everybody, but I think all of us that are practitioners, those of us that are doing this boots on the ground, that are using different printers, using different materials, are really shooting for a goal of using the raw material in place, and then having an admixture at the nozzle or somewhere introduced somewhere along the process, so that there's your binder, there's your admixtures that add their particular values to the longevity of the product, the print, what have you. And then we're not limited to larger suppliers, which everybody who's a large supplier of ours, just plug your ears for you hear that.
A final question in this round is, most houses or some houses change over time. Walls are added, doors are put in, new wings are put on, additional bedrooms are put there. How easy is it to work with the concrete walls?
With our process, in particular, doing the panels, the exterior panels, it is. Let me tell you, we have not yet done this, so I can't give a pointed answer on what it really will be. This is a part that we're trying to work out, because right now, what we're I think I can confidently answer that we can make similar changes to the walls without having to knock out full walls or do the level of renovation you would need to do in a traditional build or renovation now. The panel system makes it much easier. What will change, or what we have set the home up to do, or our model has set the home up to do, is that we print the exterior walls, and then the interior is set up for generational living, or set up for you to grow into and downsize in the same space, for whatever your needs might be. Structural points throughout that allow us to use these modular cassettes for you to change up the interior of your home. This is based off of decades of research on floor plan layouts and what they have looked like and the way they've changed over time.
What are the interior walls?
The interior walls, steel framing, and then the finish outs are just based off of whatever the clients after. They can be plain drywall, but everything is precision cut and put together offsite.
Thank you.
Jason, I have a theory. Let me run a theory that I used to run by my classes in technology change.
Yes,
I have
sir.
a theory that down the road, when I want a rake, I would purchase it online and print it out at my house.
Mm.
I have a theory that when I want to go buy a lawnmower, I would purchase it online and actually print the lawnmower out at my house.
Yeah.
And it's not as far-fetched as that we can repaginate now, when you're writing a book. And I also have a theory that, I think it's doing now, if I want to have a home design, it can be designed and printed out more efficient in half the time. And of course, it would be connected to the lot. Do you think that I'm too far ahead of myself in thinking that when I want a new computer, I'll be able to print it out? Or that when I want well, not necessarily a computer, but the things, such as pots and pans. I'm thinking of material science.
Absolutely.
So why not? I think that everybody will have a printer in their house.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, I need to go buy some forks. I just print them out at home. What do you think about that idea?
I love it. Man, guys, I know I didn't send anybody some notes ahead of time for us to talk about this, so it's crazy that we're in this, because that's ultimately, so each one of our houses will come with a desktop printer, right? One for the adults, one for the kiddos. My kiddos 3D print stuff all the time. They are little artists and they love to create. My boys love to create things to smash most of the time, but that's totally fine. It's cheap. And that is the beauty of it, is I can print out why go to the store and buy 15 of something I need two of? Why do I need to go pay all of the layers of shipping costs added on to one particular item when I can print it out at the house? I can fully customize my house to my own design and my own liking with either and the service that I'm paying for is a design service that helped me 3D model what you're talking. When it comes to printing out those things at your house, I think we're going to be more in a place of printing out the shells and the some of the connection pieces, but all the mechanical pieces, but not so much the electronic components or software or hardware that would go along with it.
Well,
But absolutely, the
I
layperson
asked you
is going to
that
be able to do
because
that.
the biggest event in my years at the University of Texas was our law student who started
Mhm.
printing guns out.
Yeah,
He started printing revolvers out. He started printing shotguns out. And the question is, where is the regulation? So if
yeah.
you can remember that, I'm sure you do.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you review that case where we had a very innovative law student, who by the way, was in the engineering undergraduate major, who wanted a gun? He put the software, put the materials in, and out it popped, and it was perfect. I mean, so comment on the whole idea of what we can actually print out, because I tell you, like your kids are printing things out,
Mhm.
it's here. From rubber balls to toys. It is just here. And I can tell you,
Yeah.
I study manufacturing, and there are people in the basement of their homes that's printing out what they need now, rather than going to the store. So talk about the printing out of a weapon, if you will, and because that was the legal court case, and he argued he had the ability and he had the right to print out his own gun.
I'm fascinated by stuff like that constantly. It really we're really pushing the boundaries of, or, I don't know, just like when we start to interpret the meanings of the origin of our country and how we manage a society in this time that no one had any basis of understanding for.
Mhm.
Globalization was like, we're trying to be our own thing. Why would we want to work with anyone else unless it does us some good? And so it's interesting to see this kind of stuff happen, and I'm always fascinated by watching it. Uh, I think that stuff is fantastic. I hope that we keep some sort of regulation on it so that we can protect, uh, the most vulnerable amongst us that aren't educating themselves on how to do that until they are educated and ready to go. But uh, I think that's what hyper customization is on its way.
Yeah, well,
I
yeah,
Yeah,
Jason, I think the answer is also, I throw in a little anthropology in here, is that what we know about humans is they created things themselves independently.
yeah,
And this is where the rake came from. This is where the wheelbarrow came from. But the idea for that came out of a necessity on the farm.
yeah,
I look back at agriculture. My father had degrees in agriculture. And I look at all of their patents on how to open a gate. They did that themselves. I look at their patents on how to communicate in the form barbed wire. They did that themselves. So I think it's a throwback to our anthropological ancestors that said the following. I think I need not just 40 balls, rubber balls to play with. I don't need so many. And remember, as an author, you can print your own book out now. It's no big thing. So all
mhm,
of a sudden, we're back to anthropology that said, well, in England, when they wanted to solve a problem, the people created the things themselves, and then other people saw them and they solved the problem. So,
right.
as you touched on, it's this individuality that we've always had in American society, because tinkering is always goes on. We got a saying in Texas. What's the last word of the Texan? Watch this. Watch this. So what do you think about my interpretation? It's very scholarly, of the human need to invent, and all of a sudden, I can print it out myself.
I'd like to know a little bit more about the actual printer. I assume that it is a nozzle which moves up and down, laying one layer after another of material, and the material has to be sufficiently tactile that it will attach itself to the previous layer without introducing a seam or a weakness. What
Yes,
does the
sir.
printer itself consist of? It's something that mixes, accelerates, and then deposits.
Yes, sir. So from batching is where it starts, right? So we bring in the material, it goes in the silo, holds about 6,000 pounds. It makes its way down through the chute into the pump and mixer, works through sensors throughout that check our weight, check our volume, ensure that we are consistent in the mix itself, and then we have sensors throughout the hose that do the same. So essentially, once it goes into the silo, it's closed in, and it doesn't touch air again until it gets back out of the nozzle that also has its own secondary agitation at the end. The admixture and the premix are in the silo also. So that is the dry mix is in the silo. The admixture is in the pump and mixer, and then the nozzle presses out the 3-inch by 1-inch bead, layer by layer, until we reach the prescribed height. And all throughout, we have little stopping points where it tells us where to lay the lateral support, where to put in a bracket here or there. You've reached window height or base of window. Put in your lintels at top of door. All these different prescribed stopping points.
Jason, concrete consists of sand, cement, and aggregate. Is there anything else you have to add to it in order to make it printable?
Not necessarily, no. That is in and of itself. In that we can go grab a Quickcrete bag or a bag of Sika ready mix. We want to find the lower aggregate, so definitely maybe more towards the mortar on their stuff, and we can print that pretty much right away.
Would
It
I
is
be right?
right.
Would I be right to assume your house is particularly defensible in a hurricane? That it's very strong, although the actual walls are quite thin, but they're very strong because they're concrete. There's no aggregate in them, right? I beg your pardon. There's no rebar in them, no reinforcement, no chicken wire.
We have, so it's truss mesh is our lateral support that goes at prescribed heights, distances as we're moving up in the wall height. There's structural supports at the ends of each one of these panels that are good for hurricane, 180-mile-an-hour plus winds, fireproof, waterproof, wood destroying, insect proof, and so. There is rebar inside, but it's really because we're doing the panels. It's the cage for the structural support, but it's also the form that we print the concrete around. So there is still rebar support inside there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, Jason, let me take you to another level.
Yes, sir.
I think we're sitting here talking about housing, but I think we're talking about manufacturing in America. You know what happens when we get into manufacturing in America? People tend to picture the old manufacturing kinds of deals, But as well I know,
Oh yeah.
all of the factories in China now are 3D printing. They're framed for cars, they're printed out 3D printing. And what I mean by that, you just hook it up to the software, and you put a diagram in there, and out comes the frame for the car. So as we think about America and jobs in the future, I always like to think about jobs in the future. And just give me your assessment. If we were to take 3D printing in America
Mhm.
and put it in every kind of things that we get from overseas. Because
Mhm.
right now, Jason, I'm feeling as a scholar that America is in the same place now where it was in England before the Revolution. That is, we're a colony. We're a colony where raw materials are going out to China and the finished products are coming back. But if we were to say that we have I don't know, a World War II, we have a Pearl Harbor, how long do you think that would it take for you to get manufacturing back into what material into socks, into shirts, into clothing, into housing, into guitars, into
Mm.
everything, into plates and everything. As we remind the president, his red hat was made in China. So
Yeah.
so my point is, if you were to theorize, let's just take the automobile industry and let's take making socks in America. How long would it take?
I think we could realistically,
Now this is a Pearl Harbor. This is a all of a sudden.
yeah, we're talking full American capitalist buy-in.
Yeah,
Everybody
all
is
of the socks
focused
are now
on
made in
this. Yeah,
America. All of the
yeah.
shirts are now made in America.
I mean, they're 3D printing. Didn't Nike or one of the top three, Nike, Reebok, or Adidas, just printed
Oh yeah.
3D printed their shoe frame. I think the Yeezy or something like that. I don't know who that is, Adidas. It's already happening. So
Oh yeah.
there's 3D printed clothes,
But it's in
fabrics.
China. It's in
There's
China though. It's not in America. It's in China.
it, I think, okay, so our limitation will really be the precious metals that would
Right.
be required for some of the smaller components in the 3D printers themselves. And then I don't think it would be too long, honestly. And if it really was that kind of an effort, then we would be pulling apart other parts or
Yeah,
other
because I think,
components to
and
be
remember,
making what we need to.
I'm thinking about day-to-day things we are,
So
you
let
know.
me let me let me take you back to construction, guys. Let me take you back to construction. So Jason,
Yeah.
you're building, a full neighborhood. You're building a house. Give us some sense of the process. So today, if I'm gonna build a brand new house by myself with a crew of folks helping me, I hire an architect. We do some renderings. That takes, 3 months, 4 months. We finally agree what the house looks like. Then I hire a contractor and a team, and they're gonna build a house, and it's gonna take a year and a half. And we, while we're building the house, we make some changes, and eventually, we rip some things, and we need to redo the drawing, get the permits from the city, update it, and 2 years later, I have a brand new house. So walk me through the Jason Jones Liberty 3D process, and how different is that I just described to buying a house with you and the whole thing. How long does it take? What are the steps? What can I change when? How hard is it? How painful is it?
Okay, beautiful. So that's kind of the whole point of this, right? Is to shorten the process and mitigate some of these pain points that we all deal with in development, home construction. So what we're after is getting the buyer, customer, whatever, the builder and the design team all in cahoots from the beginning. As a builder, and as someone who's watched my father as a designer and an engineer, and my grandfather as a builder growing up, and friends that are architects, you hear the same gripe is, why did they design that? I can't build this thing. And back on the other side, what are you talking about? This thing's gorgeous. Why can't they build it? And so this fight, the disconnect from the very beginning is what we want to eliminate. So you get the customer, the buyer, or the builder, and the design team all in the beginning, and it's incremental buy-ins from all three throughout the process. And the beauty is that we can do a bunch of that front loading, all of the working out a lot of those bugs in 3D models on top of our 2D floor plans to figure out what is going to work. We give them an opportunity to walk through the build as we're designing, so that you can see those changes in a headset immersed in a 3D space. For those who have a hard time with spatial, picking up on that spatial, what it's going to look like going from paper to reality. And so that's a big part of the process. And then with whatever city in the governance that we're working in, we go in ahead of time and we walk them through what the inspection process can look like and how simple this can really be. Now that there's standards in place around this and published and then ongoing, it makes it so much easier for us to navigate that process. So
or is it still 3 years?
no, so we can do. The goal is to move at Habitat for Humanity speed and chase that cost eventually, because with whatever network that comes with. But really, it's in making something better. So with the precision and the repeatability and all of the front work we're able to do, for certain, because we're doing this under a climate controlled and quality controlled environment and under a shorter time frame to get these framed walls put up, assembled and put up, and roof ready for the trades to complete their work. We can move smarter and faster and still maintain good margins across the board, lower hold times. I'm thankful there are some larger companies that are taking on 3D concrete printing, because this really has some opportunities to give the power back to the people, to take a robotic arm from somebody like me. They've designed everything they need. I come out with a robotic arm, I put it down, we've built your house in all the framing in the course of a week. And now you've got the other trades busting in, do this. We've now put up a home in 6 to 8 weeks versus 6 to 8 months best case under a production home builder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Final question. Does the
Yes, sir.
feedstock have to be concrete? I understand that the houses
Enclosure.
or printing wooden houses, obviously with something like
Oh, yeah.
thin and epoxy. I'm wondering about fiberglass. Does that have a role here? Other building materials that might be durable and manageable in the printing process.
Absolutely. If it works, let's work through it, is kind of our mentality. We're fortunate, right? We're not an originator in anything except for maybe seeing how to put these pieces of the process that we've all been working on forever, but injecting this one piece that takes care of the walls themselves and how that's adopted. But we're working with an Austin company now and how to introduce the steel framing or the reinforcement along with our concrete print, right? So there's plenty of opportunities for material science. The technology, recycled materials is we do recycled concrete for a lot of our build, not necessarily our print material, but finding those options out there.
Okay. Johnny, final thoughts. You're muted, Johnny.
We don't pay that much attention to the relationship between material science and the advancement of 3D printing. As I said earlier, my first introduction was probably 20 years ago with NASA, when NASA had all of the things they wanted to print on the moon because they didn't want to carry it there, right? From houses
Mm.
to automobiles and etc. And I also think that there would be a privatization of printing. I think that people who are able to afford materials and
Mm.
people who have their own computers and who can purchase the machines. And I always thought that what was going to really have a negative impact was the creation of the materials. Some materials you just cannot utilize to be reprinted, right? But in your case of
Yeah.
housing, it had advanced to the outside structures. We know that it's much more efficient. We know that it's there, it's much more durable. And I think that what might change is that when we get to the inside of the house, because now it requires skilled labor now for the electrical and those kind of things. I've always said that I know lots of people, lots of my students, right? They 3D printed and they printed books, 3D printed books and everything else. And it's one of those things we don't talk about in society because it's like manufacturing. But everything in China is 3D printing now. Great stuff.
It's
Llewellyn, final
interesting.
thoughts.
Well, to that, John, it's interesting because people want the benefits of technology. We just don't want to advance the technology ourselves, I guess. And there's this weird stigma that comes around the technology
Hmm.
itself, like it becomes out of our control, out of our power. We don't want it anymore.
Right.
It's the same mentality of people who want to be rich but don't like rich people. You know, it confounds me sometimes. Anyway, I'd love for that to change, and I think some stuff like this that are more than just flash in the pan. Maybe like you said in the beginning, harkening back to the Sears and Roebuck style, which was fantastic at the time. It just was way ahead of its time.
Right.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Did we lose Llewellyn? Llewellyn, you're gone? Hmm. Well, Jason, thank you
Yes,
for
sir.
the insights and the details. And there's a bunch of questions of comments about 3D printing. I think we covered most of it, and obviously how it's all going to play out long term. I think Llewellyn is trying to come back. There he is. Llewellyn, do you have final words? You're muted, sir.
I'm sorry, I was adjusting the computer and I made a mess of it. I'm so sorry if I missed something because this is a fascinating conversation and critically important. The world needs more homes, and traditional building is too slow, too expensive, too people intensive. A lot of these things can be factory built and moved to the site, and 3D printing is the answer, particularly if you can have a variety of feedstocks appropriate to the region.
Mm.
I'm very excited by it. I've been watching it as best I can for a long time. I've been watching 3D printing for a long time. I was down in California at a factory where they make compressors, and they were doing a lot of their work with 3D printing in metal for all sorts of components and, of course, for repairs if things break down. And I don't think people realize how pervasive 3D printing is or how much it is likely to affect the future because it's part of a silent revolution.
Mm.
It doesn't have the big drama that goes with some of the other revolutions like cell phones and things like that. And I'm so glad you've been on. I'm sorry I cut myself off there because it is of considerable interest.
It was one of the highlights of the program.
Yeah. Look, I'm just honored to be in the presence of you three gentlemen. I love this show. I was telling Andres, I put it on in the background, and I just love listening to you guys talk because it's very real, tangible, and well needed for you guys to spread the knowledge and insights that, God, we're just soaking them up. So keep it up, gentlemen. I really am grateful and appreciative for being here.
Well,
Thank you.
Jason, we'll keep up with you, and we'll have you again to find out how the journey goes, maybe 12 months from now or sooner. And Johnny, take us away.
Operator, why don't you help me place this call? See the number on the it's for hay and faded. Living in LA with my best old ex-friend Ray. The guy she says she knew well and sometimes hated. Now, isn't that the way they say it goes? Well, let's forget all that. Give me the number that you can find it, so I can call just to tell them I'm fine and to show I overcome the blow. I learned to take it well. I only wish that my words could convince myself it just wasn't real. It's not the way it feels.
All right. Johnny. Woo!
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Keep your phone on, Llewellyn. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Bye now.
Bye.